Big pleasure now to introduce my speakers and welcome them here on stage. First of all, we have Susanne Kattner. She's the co-founder of Circular Republic, a new initiative founded in the context of the Technical University Munich. So Susanne, great to have you with us here. Warm welcome and big applause. Welcome on stage. While another one is coming, you might take this one. Dr. Ulrike Tagscherer, you're Chief Innovation Officer at KUKA, so you are in charge of the smart, intelligent robots that might do the work for us when it comes to circular economy. Warm welcome, big applause, and welcome on stage. Last but not least, we have Dr. Klaas Ullmann. Klaas, you are the Executive Director. Executive Director of the BDE, Circular Economy Initiative. Right, this is basically the Federation of German Industry, so you know what's happening in the field, and very much looking forward to our discussions here. And I would say, first of all, are you ready for a difficult question to get started? There's a little bit of skepticism. Are you in the audience ready for a difficult question to get started? Because I'll also ask that to you. We heard about leveling the playing field, so not only difficult questions for us here. So my biggest question, really, when we talk about now the circular economy transformation, where are we actually in this transformation? And think of it on a scale from 0 to 10. 0 means we're still fully linear. 10 means we're fully circular, the job is done, panel is over, nothing to discuss anymore. That would be the two worlds, right? So that's the question for the three of us, for the three of you and the four of us to think about a number. You have something in mind already? You in the audience have something in mind as well? Where we are in that circular transformation? Yeah? No? Skepticism? I see that. I want to do a test, and we want to hear this from you. We do this. I'll count until 3, and then you have to shout that number. It's collective intelligence. Let's see. You don't shout yet, right? Only the audience. 1, 2, 3. Wait, there was silent. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Do you agree with that? No. First of all, I want to hear your numbers. Just the numbers, not the explanation yet. Susanne, where are we? What's the number?
I'm with the 2 people, unfortunately.
We heard a few 2s.
I'm with the 2.
That's group pressure. Klaas, where are we?
I would say 4.
4. Was anybody else with 4? Like sharing a little bit more optimism? Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. So you got a little bit of support. Okay, now of course want to hear why do you think is it a 2? Susanne, you want to get started?
I think it's the point of looking at the actual facts, the statistics that we have. When we look at circular economy in Germany, it's still a focus on waste management and not a true circular economy as we will be discussing here. So, we have, if we look at the number of actual material that's being brought back into the cycle, that's replacing primary materials, it's 13%. That's not much. And that's despite the fact that we have 30 years of experience in collecting stuff and recycling it. We looked at input. Now we have to look at the output of these processes as well, and that's why I think we are on 2. But there's hope.
But there's hope, that's good. So 2 with a little bit potential upwards. Ulrike, do you agree with that?
I do. I looked at it from the company perspective, and I also think we are not at 0 or 1 because people are aware, we have first initiatives, but there's a lot of room to get better.
A lot of room to get better. Klaas, you were a little bit more optimistic and progressive. Why is it a 4 for you?
Yeah, it's just because of one thing, as Susanne mentioned already, we have solutions for good waste management, collection. We have good solutions for some materials, very good ones for metals, for steel, aluminium, to bring them back into the cycle, of course, and that works for decades. So there is something in place. We have difficulties with some materials, but there are solutions on the market. And second thing is, we have experience with kind of repairability in repair, not so much in the consumer goods section, but in some industry installations, there's repair is a normal thing because of costs. And so there's hope, I would say. We are at a 4, I would say. What's missing are really business models for difficult questions in the circularity.
So the business models for my difficult question. No, I think it's quite interesting to open up again, because sometimes it sounds a lot like we're already full swing into the circular economy, right? Things just get back into the loop. The idea sounds great, reality a little bit more difficult. And Klaus, you mentioned there are a few industries where we have good examples. Susanne, also from your point of view, what industries are making some good progress already? Because there might be things that are easier than in other industries. What would you point out?
I mean, in the automotive sector, for example, closing the loop for components, remanufacturing has been fully established for years. Because here we know this is valuable material, you want to have it back, you have the after sales, you remanufacture it, you can sell it again within a guarantee almost as new. So here the business models have been established. Also for, high value medical equipment, for example, reuse models have been established for years. But it's not broadly common sense to do that. So I think we can take the learnings out of these sectors, out of these industries, what does work, what doesn't work, how do we have to change the incentives, and then this can be more broadly rolled out, I think.
Yeah, so maybe Ulrike, is that one differentiator to really look into higher value components, I would just say, not just the products, but components. These are driving circular ambitions more than, of course, low value components?
Yeah. First of all, I want to add, we have that for years without having the name circular economy, that we refurbish and remanufacture our robots. Because it's just a normal thing to do. But that business didn't grow. And now we see with some materials becoming more valuable, we are driving that. So it's really, it matters. And for the future, I really see that only if we see what we throw away today as having a value, we will get the materials back. Otherwise, people will throw it away. I heard incentives in the US for iPhones, and even if they pay people $50, if they bring back the iPhone, they still don't do it. So I think that's a little bit the relation. So
the value is one part, but maybe, Klaus, also the resource scarcity that will come into play, right? Maybe automotive could be a good sector because we're all now experiencing resource scarcity happening, whether that's for batteries, for other components. Is that then also a driving force that you need to think about, how do I get the resources that I need in a different way?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Within the last years, it was really strong argument to say we have to take care of our resource supply security. But that's not always the case. I mean, we had in the past crisis with problems with resources and as a supply. But when we had afterwards years without that problems in supply and demand, then prices were falling again, and no one was thinking in recycling and reuse and remanufacturing again because the market prices were down for raw materials. And that we are now on a really, really critical point after and within deep crises worldwide to say, okay, if circular value creation really should be a really important pillar of our raw material supply, of our business cases for resilience, then we have to take, I think, new actions than we had before, because otherwise maybe in 2 or 3 years we would say, okay, the raw material prices are down at the moment, then we can buy on the spot market cheap primary raw materials, and we think again on circular solutions in 2040, maybe then it's really too late, because then we have really, really huger problems with our supply side than we have now. So we have now the time to act and to rethink how do we want to put circular solutions in our business strategies and our political strategies. And that's not just an environmental topic. It's of course for us it has to be in the industrial strategies and the strategies of the countries of the European Union and the companies as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's interesting also, we have some other industries to look into. Think of plastic, PET bottles, where we have some experience. And now you think of all these recycled plastics coming in. There was also a high volatility on prices, right? Of like virgin plastic and then recycled plastic. Also a little bit disrupting the industries on both ends. So do we also see challenges there then, that price volatility can be really difficult?
I would want to add on to exactly what Klaus has just said. I mean, we had these challenges in the past, supply chain security, but the frequency of the crises that we've seen in recent years, somebody calculated every 1.5 years in the past years we've seen some other crises. Was it starting with Corona, then we had the Suez Canal accident, then we have, of course, the attack on Ukraine. So circular economy, or the question, why do I need to do this, has sort of changed a little bit. We came from this ecological argument, and by now we see resilience is a term that's playing very strong into the circular economy narrative. I find this very interesting. And on top of that, of course, this was mentioned in the previous panel as well, they have the changes in regulation. We have quotas coming for different materials, batteries is something. We have quotas for recycled content in plastics. So that's another dimension why demand will increase and why it's a strategy that needs to be taken serious by businesses, because they have to comply with this. And so the need to change is there.
It's interesting because...
Can I add?
Well, of course, yes, please.
And I think that on the other hand side, that helps the companies. If there is regulation, if they are forced to comply, then they do. And then you suddenly create a momentum inside the company as well. So for me, it's also both. It's part is the market and demand, but the other side is regulation. It really helps drive progress in circular economy.
But maybe let's dive a little bit deeper, because also in the first panel we've been talking about regulation, and sometimes there's this pushback immediately from companies who don't like regulation because they associate it with bureaucracy, right, and restrictions. Then it sometimes feels a little bit fuzzy. And I was thinking about, we see a lot of good regulation, whether that's the smoking ban. Most people would agree that's a good thing, like in restaurants and everywhere. Everybody's pretty happy about this, I would say. Let's make it more concrete. You said quotas, and also Viola Wohlgemuth said before, there will be a lot of things coming. So what will be these things? Quotas for secondary materials within your products as one thing?
Yeah.
The right to repair out there? Maybe you can share a little bit of insights what will come. Klaus, you want to go first? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what's really new, if you talk about regulation in a circular economy, is that we need circular regulation. We had before waste legislation, we had chemical law, we had product law, more or less in closed shop discussions. What we now need is regulation which has rules for circularity, and that's not easy, and that's completely new to legislation makers for us. Yeah, so we need regulation which fits for circularity and for circular business models. That's a really huge challenge. European Union tries to do it, and coming to your question, we see a lot of regulation, new approaches from the European Union within the Green Deal. One is, of course, the minimal recycled content in different products. That's one approach to have the demand side for recycled material. From my point of view, that's one important thing, but you have to do it in an intelligent way that markets will take it and not lead to really market failure. Because, I mean, if you put for certain products with a plastic quota for recycled content, all recycled material on the market will then go in this product, and there's nothing left maybe for other products, but in total there's nothing in progress for the whole market of recycled material. So you have to find intelligent regulation for the whole market. That's really a challenge, but we need, of course, a mix of instruments. Quotas can be for some plastic types really good. Maybe you do not need them for aluminium, but you have to, and to the producer responsibility that you have a good circular product system. So we need an intelligent mix and cross-industrial, because plastic is in different industries, products, metals. So that's really a huge challenge, and we face it and we try to find solutions at the moment, I would say.
But that's maybe also the dilemma of regulations. Regulations is always a little bit more pushy towards something. So companies, markets might not be able to fulfill, but then get moving within 2, 3, 4 years. But in that meantime, everybody's complaining. Is that something that we might see more often also in the circular economy?
I think it's interesting what you see with in the battery context right now. Yeah, we have the battery regulation. Well, it came into force this August and has to be sort of like successively adopted now with quotas. So the recycled content aspect is one. But the other aspects are also introducing this true circularity perspective more and more. So it's about performance, it's the transparency in the supply chain, it's about repairability, things like that. And just because the regulation tries to push this, of course, there's a huge discussion amongst battery manufacturers. How can we comply with this? And the battery passport, of course, that's some work we did, is trying to fulfill this transparency across all these different demands. And so many OEMs, many suppliers are now engaging in exactly this discussion to see how can this be completed. And I think this is a very exciting change that's taking place. It's trying to find the solutions together. Again, this sort of like, I love this aspect of cooperation, because if we look at the entire life cycle, and if we look at this question of, how do we manage this, the different actors of this life cycle need to come together. And here in the battery path, or for a digital product path, you have these different perspectives, and it's a joint learning curve that we are seeing right now, and I think that's perfect.
Let's dive a little bit deeper into that life cycle, because we had supply chain at the beginning, but then of course we want to talk about disassembly. Two things later on in the value chain is, number one, the reverse logistics, right? And then the reproduction, something that we want to talk about. Reverse logistics really means, how do we bring back the products, right? Whether that's the fashion item, the smartphone, Apple or whoever, the car. Is that still the big challenge we need to tackle and find good solutions? Where are we? How do the raw materials and the products actually get back? Who wants to take that question?
So, I mean, there are established companies that, like I said before, with the remanufacturing established in the automotive business, we have reverse logistics companies who are already doing this business. But at the moment, we are in an economy who looks at these forward cycles. So the forward logistics is well established. The production of building products is fully established. But these bringing it back, returning it, reusing it, this is where we actually have to take our expertise from this forward cycle and apply these now to these reverse cycles. And as I said, in some areas it's fully established, but the point is, to make it successful, we have to think largely about economies of scale. So it might not be as a manufacturer who is fulfilling these successfully. May I have to partner with somebody else with a similar product, or with a partner who is in a similar region like me? So be open, think across, über den Tellerrand schauen. I'm missing the English word now.
Yeah, because one thing that we still see, to be honest, everybody can also reflect, just when we think about the electronic devices, how many electronic devices do you still have somewhere in the apartment, in the basement, wherever, that have not been returned, that are not used? You don't need to shout out the numbers for GDPR reasons, but maybe on us, I probably have more than 10. For sure, most people will have more than 10. So how do these things get back? Maybe you said it, maybe we team up with different items similar way. And Ulrike, we talked before, why don't you bring back the t-shirt with the puppets, with something else, not with the washing machine, but similar items that have similar requirements could be a way to go.
Yeah, we discussed it before. It's like, when I think about what would we do with automation once something has been brought back, then for us, you could dump everything together and you have then an intelligent system that sorts it at the place. So for me, the way of the collection doesn't matter. I would then rather distinguish the materials where they are. And for the robot, it wouldn't even matter which material. It would probably for the process, but not for the robot itself. But I have another story that I want to share, because we looked into wooden EU pallets. They are usually standard sized. And there's obviously a great system established that I give you mine, and then it's like a coin system or something, and then you use mine and something like that. So companies usually don't throw them away. Now we need special sizes of these pallets for our robots. They are bigger usually. We have to get them manufactured for us, and we found a company that is a startup that is having a material that binds CO2 in the material, and we could build a pallet out of it. So I went to our inside the company, and we checked whether or not we could substitute that. And everybody was in favor of it. But then just the calculation, it doesn't make sense if we as a single company do that and nobody would take them over or keep them or do anything with them. And then if we get them back and they are broken, we wouldn't be the ones recycling them. So it's a complex system. It's just not so easy.
Maybe to add, because everybody can resonate with this product, we're talking about a complex system, but the product is like very basic and very simple, right? It can't get...
The wooden pallet is simple.
It's quite simple, and even there it's quite difficult to get the system up and running. Yeah. But when we, maybe there also, Klaus, your perspective on the reverse logistic part, like still the big thing, standardization that might be lacking, that big fundamental changes, which are not so trivial?
I mean, the last one was really a perfect example how difficult it can be if we want to scale up for individualized products. That's really the hardest problem we have, I would say, with an individual responsibility of products. That's really not easy. But from my point of view, I mean, we face two big problems. We have to take actions that products come back to a point where they can be reused or prepared for reuse, or then go to recycle the system. And that has to be established, and that we do not have at the moment. I mean, it's nice that we can bring our small electronic appliances in theory to supermarkets if they let us do this, or we can bring them to this nice system of Wertstoffhöfe in Germany. What's really not easy, because the opening hours are not that friendly to people who work, but we have to then have a really system where we can bring back easy our products and repair them if we can do that on our own or someone who's doing us, but we have to check if it's repairable or not, and if not, then they go to a recycling process. So, and this we have to establish a system, maybe we can discuss deposit schemes, other schemes, I don't know, and we have to ensure that then we have standardized more or less, but we will need some standardization of the products, that we can disassemble them, that we can maybe take out some parts which are ready for reuse, and then we have a good quality, and we have to be or it has to be possible that we get back materials which we do not back at the moment, and that are really this high valuable metals we do not get back at the moment, like the rare earths or indium. There at the moment they are shredded at the end most of the times, and there we have to find solutions if we want to really talk about this resilience for critical or strategic raw materials.
And maybe what's interesting, just on the electronic example, just one anecdote. I, to be honest, didn't even realize for a long time that it was possible to give them back in the supermarket right around the corner. It was just not visible, like really in the eye for ordinary people. But Susanne, you wanted to add something?
No, it's super important what we are discussing here, because I think it shows the difference of you looking at the product, and it's this incentive, we have I think we're all concerned about this topic, and still, we say, okay, we have this number of iPhones or iPads or phones or laptops in our drawers. These are the products. We need to think about circular business models as well. If we move, for example, and rent these products in the future, and if I want to have a new phone, I just don't get it before I return my old one, and we're working in these contracts, we're working out of the service perspective, then I think we are changing these incentives as well to returning stuff because it comes normal, or because you are just being forced to do it if you want to change it in. So that's why, products, one point, business models is the other one that we need to look at.
Yeah, and just maybe to add, it's just not the incentive, but the convenience.
Exactly.
You mentioned it, the Wertstoffhof. I was last week at the Wertstoffhof that was closed. I had to drive another 10 kilometers. That's not the core idea, right?
Exactly.
So the convenience needs to be super incorporated.
Yeah.
Then let's assume we have fixed all that. Reverse logistic, the teddy bear is going back, the iPhones are going back, the other smartphones are going back. Then we have these sites where the intelligent robots come into play to do first of all, kind of sorting, right? You need to assess, you get different items, different quality. What happens then? How could that look like?
Actually, I think that's much harder than most people imagine. We just had a project looking into reverse logistics. So let's take the big warehouses where you get everything that we send return. They get that. And a part of that is already automated, so you don't need robots for that. And then at a certain moment, there are still humans there, and especially for clothes, they need to pick them up, look at them, figure out whether they are ripped, broken, have been damaged. They even have to smell at the clothes whether or not they can now be repacked and resold, or if they have to go through any other process, or if they are going to be dumped. And you can imagine that if the clothes are so cheap and you need to spend half an hour or 20 minutes for a human being, a worker, looking at one piece of clothes and then even doing something with it, it's not worth it. Yet a robot is per se not intelligent, and it sounds easy to say they are intelligent, but for them to smell is not so easy. I saw a video clip from a competitor today, and they said that robot can taste 9 different egg and tomato recipes and prepare it to your needs. But that's only demonstration. That's not ready to sell. We are not that far. And imagine we pick up a piece, we use our hands, we pick up a t-shirt. What does the robot do? He picks it up and everything hangs like that. So you would then already need 2 arms, more expensive. At the same time, if it's electronics, electronics are not so difficult because they are smaller. You can have a stationary robot, you have a vision system, you have small screws. They are usually not damaged, and that's a little bit easier. Then we have cars. We looked into cars. Car disassembly sounds easy, and a high-level manager in our company said, Ulrike, we build cars. Why can't we dismantle it? We just run the whole process in reverse. Now, the difference is we are at the very beginning of the car production. So when your body and white structure is built, and then we weld and form and do, and then all the interior comes in, and then finally it's a cool product with all the electronics and stuff. Now, we learned that a BMW, for example, is returned, I think, 25 years after it was sold. And it never looks the same way than it was built. By the way, the screws that our robots screwed into the car are now completely out of sight. They are blocked by the interior, by a seat, by whatever. So you just can't have a robot and say, do the same thing as a human. You need to teach the robot. And so we need to work a lot on making the robots more intelligent in order to be able probably to have, like speech, tell the robot, now remove the wheels. So that's a big difference. Then if we build cars, we build one model in a line, and we've built thousands for 7 years at least. Now, if you think about the places that collect used cars, you have all the different models from all over the world, and that variety is really huge. So without a proper intelligence in the robot, we will not be able to do that. So that's really, we are in our infant shoes. We are looking at it. We also looked at battery recycling. And then the resonance was, yeah, but the volume of batteries, car batteries returned is far too small for us to even look at the business, because they will become storages probably for the next 5-7 years. So it's not so easy. It sounds like, yeah, then have a robot dismantle everything. So unless we really redesign a lot of products so that they can automatically be disassembled and the materials be separated, it will be a difficult task to do.
And I mean, it's not just the complexity of the car, but the variety. Like everybody who drives back later on, just keep an eye open. How often do you see the same model twice? I mean, with the phones, also complex, but we have more patterns there to see things. That will make a fundamental difference. But you mentioned one important point on the design part. Maybe we quickly dive into this also. Design of products needs to be different. And hypotheses, my hypothesis now, 99% of the products out there are not designed in a circular way. Even you say even more, so 99.9.
Fine with the number.
How do we change that, Klaas? Or is that changing also within the industry? It's completely different approach to design.
It's completely different, and we have to, that's the thing. If you think in a circular value creation, it starts with a design phase, and that's completely different than we did it the last decades, thinking, what's coming up within my waste stream, let's do something valuable out of it, and if not, we burn it. That we have completely different approach now, and we should have it, we have to have it, but it's that as complex as Ulrike said and described it, but what's happening on the regulatory side at the moment on the European level. We will get a completely new act for product regulation, eco-design regulation, and there we will focus then product groups for criteria for different products for design for circularity. That's really broad, but we have to go then into the detail for different product groups. What is designed for circularity? I mean, it can be repairability, durability, maybe recyclability, recycled content that have to, assessed, and that's a problem that takes time. And we have then conflicts with other important goals like energy efficiency and so on and so on. But we have to do it. We have to do it from the company side to think about in the design. And then if the company has, for example, good reason to say, okay, I design my product that I can disassemble or let it disassemble by another actor later on and get back my material, then maybe it makes sense that I do it. That was the idea 20 years ago when we talked about a producer responsibility, but it never happened because we have this collective systems of producer responsibility with 1,000 different car models, and they paid all the fee for the disposal of the waste, but they had never an idea of getting back their material. I mean, and that's changing, I think. And there we have to strongly think about design. And from the regulatory side, it's coming. But let me, last point, be clear on this. For example, the textiles, we had it on the panel, the last panel. I think with the circular economy in a perfect world, we will never be able to say we have a sustainable, ultra-fast fashion industry. It's impossible. I mean, that's something to be very clear.
Very for sure for the next decades, something that will not happen. Maybe eco-design also very interesting to keep an eye, because we're coming to concluding remark. I think that's important. With all these challenges, and we are at 2 out of 10, 4 out of 10, sounds negative, but there's a lot of opportunities, right? I mean, this should be the message also. There will be a lot of change driven by these regulations where you go into design. So anything you would like to add on this one, Susanne?
It's exactly that, opening with the 2, but then, of course, coming from Circular Republic, working at Unternehmertum, working with all these amazing startups, seeing the startups here. There's tons of innovation, tons of new ideas that's driving us forward. And so that's why I would raise it, closing with 4.
You changed your closing with 4. You want to revise your number to the 2? It's fair to keep it like that. Class, you were 4, you have to step it up now. 5, probably. No, at this point, I would say thank you very much to this panel for sharing the insights, going a little bit more deeper into the circular economy. Big applause to the 3 of you, and thanks a lot again. Yeah.
Thank you.